Hi everyone and welcome to episode 20 of Glass Cage Podcast. It is a pinnacle moment that we've hit our 20th episode. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all the continued support. With me today, I have a pro bodybuilder and Miss Universe, Sarah Parker Hatchard. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm really good. Thank you, mate.
Good. So yeah, lots to go over today. We're going to talk about all sorts of things, but obviously with Sarah's experience and wealth of knowledge, these are all things that carry over into mental health, personal growth, overcoming difficulties, all sorts of things. So we linked up through a mutual friend and yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really good episode. So yeah, couple of things to begin with. I mean, I want to just sort of get to grips with your story really, because obviously I haven't really spoken to you much outside of a couple of texts. So I want to kind of know, well, I want you to kind of, share with everybody how you sort of got into bodybuilding and obviously ultimately get to winning Miss Universe. I mean, it's a huge milestone. It's massive. So I want to know sort of what brought you to that and what your inspiration was to get into bodybuilding. And yeah, if you could tell me your story, please.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess going right back to childhood is a good place to start, because I sometimes forget really how the journey has taken me. It's been such a big journey in regards to, at school, I didn't even like sport. So to now be competing in bodybuilding is like, if you told me that when I was 15, I'd be like, absolutely no way. And also I get people say to me, it's really nice that you've come from that background, because it gives people hope that you don't have to be, into sport your whole life to be able to do something in the sporting world. I definitely think, like you say, with mental health, that's a big thing for people to maybe take on board, that you don't have to be a competitor, but you can still get into sport at any age and get the benefits of the mental health. So I always like to sort of start with that and just remind myself that's where it started and this is where it is now. So yeah, at school, I didn't really like sport. I'd try and bail if I could. And I was just like, no. And then from sort of ages 18 to 21, as we all do, drinking, all the different things that you do when you're younger. And then I did my personal training qualification. It wasn't really my main focus, but I thought I'm going to go to college, do something. And it sort of, I don't know, something inside me thought that would be quite cool. And then I started working at a gym in Billingshurst, where you're from as well, ironically.
Yeah.
And one of the trainers there, he was into Ironman triathlon, and he was literally phenomenal. Like, this guy, it's just insane. Like, he had titles in Ironman and stuff like that. And it was like, holy shit, like amazing. So like I followed him, he told me what training he was doing and stuff. And I got into triathlon and I got up to half Ironman. And then I got a back injury, which meant running was just not ideal for me.
What did you do?
So, I mean, I say injury, it was like a long-term wear and tear thing. So,
right.
It got to the point where, and I know you've had back problems, so you can appreciate, you're literally getting out of bed, like, falling out of bed almost. And then you've got to try and be able to walk. And then I'd be going for like a half marathon. So you start off really like, and then you just sort of get in the flow, and then you forget the pain. You're really loving the training and whatever. And then it got to the point, I did the half Ironman, and I thought, this really isn't good if I could try and continue this, because it's just not working.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can appreciate as well with sport, you get into something, you don't want to let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
It's really difficult. So I went through the stage of like just going to the gym, and it was like, this is just so boring for me. Like, I really need a goal of, like, I used to race in triathlon, so I had that. And I went to a bodybuilding show for a friend's birthday, and I was like, I've got us tickets, and there was like a group of us. And we went to the show, and I was like, oh my God, this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, everyone is like fake tan and just buff. And I was like, who are these people? Like,
this is a dream.
Yeah, like thinking, oh my God. And then my friend Jules was at this show, who I knew from the leisure centre I worked at. And he was like, you could do that next year. And I was like, fuck off. There's no way. literally like, no, because it's like bikini, heels, and I'm not massively girly either. So wasn't really into sport apart from triathlon, wasn't really girly. And I thought, no way. And then I went to the gym like the next day and I was training and I was thinking, oh my God, could I actually like do this thing? And then like I'm on Google and everything, and then found a coach and then got into it. And it was like, wow, this is really cool. And so first couple of seasons I didn't place. I went through some really tough times because when you do a prep and it's say 6 to 8 months, like you're in a calorie deficit for that time.
Yeah.
You're training a lot, like things like your sleep is very disturbed, your periods stop, all of these types of things from doing an extreme sport. Then to not, you know, some of the shows, the judges don't even look at you if you're not at the level you need to be to play.
Standard, yeah.
It's a really dark place to visit. So I had that for a couple of seasons, and my coach kept saying to me, you know, like he'd check in and he'd say, you need to grow more muscle mass. And I know you've been going through that with your strongman training. When, you know, when you're thinking, I need another 10 months of muscle building and then a 6 to 8 months prep, you're talking 2 years every block. And it's like, can I keep doing this if I'm never going to get, you know, a podium finish, which is what I think most people would want. You know, you don't really plug away at something to just, you get to a point where it's like, I need some sort of, I don't know, you know, yes, you can maybe excel at this at some point in the future. And that was always very intrinsic. Like it wasn't because of, I wanted to do it because I want a trophy. It was, am I putting everything in my power into something that I'm only ever going to be okay at?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and that's a difficult thing to sort of, you know, go into each season with. So I went into my 2019 season and I thought, if I can't place top 3, I really do need to review what's happening here and whether this is for me. So in that season, I started doing some like mindfulness, some visualization, some meditation and stuff like that.
Good.
I found a posing coach who I do a podcast with, Steph, who when I first met her, gave me a real level of respect and belief that I could do this. Like she said, I've got a really good physique. I had the foundations of the posing, etc. My coach has always supported me. And I started to meet some like-minded people. I went into my first show with the Federation is UKUP in 2019 and I won. And it was just like, what the fuck has just happened? Like literally, like, yeah, I broke down on the stage. Like I never thought I'd cry. And then I just literally went, and then I'm like, and then they're like, you can see how much this means to Sarah at the back of the stage there. She's won. And, you know, like they said, oh, she's from Bognor Regis. And I'm like, I've got to do this for my town. And it was just like, it was this phenomenal like flood of like probably 5 years by then of day in, day out, literally, like no joke, nearly every minute of my life is consumed by, can I be a better bodybuilder?
Yeah.
So all of that just came crashing in. And then I went to compete a second time. So 2 weeks later, I stayed in the calorie deficit, stayed in condition. I came second at Body Power, which is like a really big expo.
Very big, yeah.
Yeah, and that for me, like I always went as like an amateur and I looked up at the stage and I'd be like, imagine competing at Body Power, and then to come second in my class was like another, you know, next level experience. Then I competed 1 week later and I got my first pro card with a federation called NFM UK. So that was in Wales, and I kept that show like a secret. I went and did it because I wanted to see what it'd be like to compete with not anyone knowing that I was competing.
Yeah.
Because I'm always very like honest and I tell everyone what I'm doing. I'm like however many weeks out I am and stuff. So I did that, came second, got my pro card, had like a 3-month period, and then I did the UKUP British finals and I won that. And it was like, how is this even happening?
It's blowing up.
Yeah. And then I, a week later, went and competed at Rhinos in Stamford, which is run by who's now a very good friend of mine, Nick. And I won that and qualified to compete in Mexico with WABA. And I was like, what? How am I competing internationally now? Like, and then went over to Mexico and won Miss Universe and got another pro card. So I ended up with 3 pro cards, Miss Universe, and was like, holy shit, what has happened? And like I said to you before we started, like it still feels really surreal to even say like Miss Universe, because I'm not one to really, I don't need the external, verification anymore that I'm okay, that I'm good enough to be a bodybuilder. And like, it's so intrinsic for me. I wouldn't sort of put it out there per se, apart from people I know. But every time someone says to me like, what have you done and stuff, I'm like, oh wow, it is like really cool what I've done.
You should, it's a big thing, and it's a learning curve for me as well, because I very seldom sort of own my victories. I always just think, well, I'm just doing stuff, and that's all it is to me. Even if I try very, very hard, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it's really lovely to get validation from other people, but obviously that's not why you do it.
Yeah,
because then your heart wouldn't be in the right place, and you wouldn't be able to do with all the grueling work. But yeah, that's something I'm trying to work on, is being kind of okay, like, because obviously I sing and I make music and stuff like that, and I'm people give you compliments, and I'm just sort of like, I don't know, I don't really know how to take it, because I don't know, I'm just not very good at sort of accepting that I am good at something,
Yeah, it's a very, like, I guess from coming from school and stuff, I was always okay at everything. So like I'd get the grades, but until bodybuilding, I've never excelled at anything. So it's like a really new thing. And I feel like it's really important to stay humble. But like you say, when you are doing things, and even like little daily wins, it's really important to sometimes recognize that, some days you don't even want to get out of bed when you're really into sport, or, whatever it is, if you're having a tough time. And then you've got out of bed and you've done the stuff, you've dealt with things, and then you've gone to bed and you've ticked off a load of stuff off your list. And it's like, okay, it's nothing that set the world alight, but it's still being able to do things when you're up against stuff. And, with what everyone's been through with lockdown as well, it's you've got to celebrate, haven't you, the daily wins, but also when you do achieve something, like when we spoke about your strongman stuff, when you get a lift, it's like, oh my god, I've just got whatever you've pulled in a deadlift, say, and you're like, do you know what, for me that was massive.
Yeah, and this is the thing, like it's shit, right? Because I've got, I know I don't sound really, really bad, but it's because I'm putting on the bravest of faces. But I feel like I don't feel great. Like the last few days, I felt really fluey, and I decided to stay at home and order some COVID tests just to be safe. I don't think it's that, but you're just managing your expectations. And I was fucking livid because I gym Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday religiously. I'm on a 6-week program at the moment. And now I've missed 2 sessions because of my health. And when I voice clipped you the other day and we were talking about getting that milestone, hitting that lift, that thing you've been chasing for ages. And after I injured my back, the milestone thing for me was like, I felt, when I was lifting like 60, 70 kilos and being careful, in a deadlift, for example. Now I'm up to, 180, 185. And I mean, my max, I've done 282 before. I've done a big fucking pull before, so it's like it's in there. And when I hit 200, I promise you, I'm going to scream that fucking gym down, because that is that thing that I am, because I've got so much fire in me. And this is the thing; it's the same thing with me, like you were saying about the having small things to. I was listening to your I've been stalking you the last few days, just doing research and stuff, as you do. And a really good point you made was about, when you're getting into competing and things, is to set yourself goals that are realistic. Telling yourself that you're going to lose 4 stone. This was the example you used, saying you're going to lose 4 stone And then every single day you're going to be consumed by that. And that's such a humongous thing to aim for. Whereas if you just say, okay, I'm going to lose a pound this week or something like that, you put things into perspective more. And that's me now. Like I say to myself, okay, well, due to my progressive overload, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a process within lifting where you're always putting yourself under pressure to increase the weight ever so slightly, even if it was only a pound, just to enable further growth and your body not to get complacent, etc. So every single week, what I used to do was be like, okay, well, I'm going to add 20 kilos onto my squat this week, and that's quite a lot, if you're going to try and do that in a week.
Yes.
So it's, yeah, literally. And it ends in a fucking big injury and then, 2 years off. So yeah, it's about, adding, I mean, at the moment I'm adding like, between sort of 1 and 5 kilos a week on each lift, depending on how I feel. I added 40 kilos to my squat last week. I've got, but again, it's not like I've just found this mammoth ability all of a sudden like that, but it is the mental game. It's trying to get past my own demons. I did it in rugby when I used to play rugby. I remember I'd had a couple of years off, and I had and I was in training, and I had a really big collision with a guy. The place I used to train, they really used to take it, like the games, like the training was like a game. It was like full on. And basically, me and this bloke went to both ruck either side of a pile, and everyone moved out the way, and we just collided heads with each other. And and it really shook me. Like really, really shook me. I think I was concussed. We hit each other really hard. And after that, the tackling coach said to me the few weeks after, he was like, "You're not tackling properly." He was like, "Your head's not in it. You're not going in for it. You're not really." And I was like, "Mate, I'm scared. I'm scared of smashing my head into someone again." And this is a massive thing. It's just overcoming that mental aspect of knowing that you will be okay.
I think, like you said, it's like that self-doubt, isn't it? And that is, I feel, what changed for me when I went into my most successful season, because I always, like, if people said to me, you're a bodybuilder, and I'd be like, yeah, and try and like almost get away because I hadn't placed and I hadn't been successful. I actually didn't feel like I should say to people that I compete, because I didn't feel I'd earned the right. Now, again, that's not because I feel like you've got to be a fucking body, and I'm trying to make it something it's not. Internally, I did not feel comfortable with throwing around that I compete until I was able to say that I was competitive. Everyone has their own motivations when it comes to competing. Some people want to compete and just do it for the experience, and that's absolutely fine. But it's knowing your expectations, and then, things like self-doubt, when they do creep in, it's trying to work out why they're creeping in and what you're actually trying to get from doing something like a sport like strongman or bodybuilding. And when you understand your expectation and your ability and what's realistic for you, it becomes easier to sort of manage that doubt. But it's such a fucker.
Well, this is like, you're spot on. Is a point you mentioned I want to go back to. You said about you were kind of reticent to sort of own the fact that you were doing bodybuilding because you hadn't placed or you hadn't done anything. That's a big thing for me now, because I a big part of my anxiety is I feel incredibly judged. Even if somebody doesn't know me or anything like that, I feel immensely judged for nothing, for literally nothing. And like, you see, I don't know, someone will watch your story but they don't follow you, and then I think, oh, they're just coming on to have a laugh or something. Do you know what I mean? And like with me now, it's like, because I haven't done a contest yet, it's like, are people gonna even take it seriously? Or but I'm just trying to look at me. I want to just trim some of the fat down and gain some good mass. I'm the program I'm on is great. My eating, I'm not eating 5,000 calories a day. I'm probably eating about 3.5. But it's manageable. You don't have to. This is a big thing as well. People get it wrong. They watch like Eddie Hall or Brian Shaw, and they're eating 12,000 calories a day, and that's just not what you need to do. He's 6'9" and 400 pounds. He needs to do that, but you don't need to do that.
Yeah, that's a massive thing as well. Like, social media and what you aspire to. And I had exactly the same when I started out in bodybuilding. I said to my coach, I want to look like this, and I'd like screenshotted all these girls.
Yeah.
So he says to me, like, for a start, you are you. So genetically, you can't be someone else. So, I had that conversation with him, and I changed the way I looked at it. I'd look at the photos and think, that's really inspiring, but I want to look the best I can. And, you know, you change it around. But like you say there, people don't get, you know, you watch Eddie Hall, but he is a fucking monster. And, you know, he's trained for years and years and years. He's at, you know, he was at his peak, you know, condition and what he was doing in his sport, and he's on 10,000 calories a day. But when, you know, when you relate it back to someone that's watching that from their living room and thinking they need to do that to get to where he's at, it's not the case. But again, it's the pressure, isn't it, of everyone else, even people that they're not pressurizing you, you're pressurizing yourself by watching them.
And that's it. And you know, if we didn't have social media and things to compare it to, my confidence would be a lot higher. I know that because I've always been, it's kind of funny, but my dad introduced me to lifting when I was very young. My dad he did like powerlifting, and then he was a marathon runner, and then he got back into lifting again.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he did all sorts of stuff. So I was always around it. And I mean, I watched Pumping Iron with Arnie when I was about, I think, 6 or 7.
Yes.
And I was absolutely like dumbfounded. Like, this is, and I wanted to look like that. Of course I did. You know, and I was completely besotted with bodybuilding and stuff for years. But the issue is, because my parents broke up and it was very turbulent, my dad was abusive and he was a drinker and all sorts of things. My coping mechanism was food. Yeah. So I went from this skinny little kid into, you know, a chubby, you know, teenager, and then into a fat adult. And food, even now, I it's a lot more under control now. I eat very clean now, which is good. I still have a refeed every couple of weeks, definitely. But on the whole, it's all good. But it became for me like, the food got in the way. And then I thought to myself, because I am very driven and I can be very disciplined. So I thought, okay, well, I'll lose some weight, and get fit. So I lost 5 stone.
Wow.
And then, I kind of, but I didn't really feel great. Like, and I didn't do it right either. This is the thing. Like, what I know about nutrition now is invaluable. Like, I wish I knew what I know now when I was 12, 13, because I'd be a fucking beast by now.
I know. I keep thinking, if I had another 10 years on me, I'd be like,
yeah, seriously. And so I did it. I didn't do it right. I mean, you know, for me, I'm 6 foot at the moment. I think I'm about 108, maybe 109 kilos, so probably about 18 stone and a bit. But I don't really think I look like it, because I'm not like, I haven't got a huge overhang or anything like that. Like, I'm not a really fat guy, you know, which is a relief. But when I was dieting, I was on about 1,600 calories a day. And I was walking to and from work and going to the gym. So what you were saying about that starving, and I was listening another one of your videos this morning, when you were talking about, you know, when you're in a prep and you know, being starving all the time and thinking and always having that goal in mind of what you're doing it for. Yeah. That was the same thing for me, but I wasn't really losing weight for me. I was doing it because I felt judged by everyone else. And I punished myself. My relationship with food was fucked. Like, I did not eat any junk because I felt like I would implode if I did. I mean, a man of my size, I mean, obviously now I'm much more muscular. You know, we're going back about 3-4 years. But I would eat 1 chicken breast and 100 grams of rice for lunch. And breakfast would be 100 grams of porridge. Dinner would be like a Slimming World ready meal. And that was it. And that's fucked.
Yeah, and it's fucking scary as well, mate. Like, and when I work with people and they say to me, like, I don't need any foods, and I'm thinking, what do you mean you don't need it? Like, yes, you do. And you need to get to a point where you can actually lose weight effectively for a long period of time. And actually, you know, most people that I start with that are looking to lose weight, I say to them, I'm looking at least a year working together, so that, you know, when you lose this weight, you keep the weight off. And it's really hard for people to understand that, because it's like, what can I do in 3 months? But 3 months is no time at all. And, you know, like you said there about in a prep, when I'm in a prep, so many people say, are you starving? You must be hating it. How are you not having the food? And I'm like, but I'm choosing to do this and I want to do it. And yes, at times I'm hungry, but it's more, you know, my body is at times overtrained and very fatigued and what have you. And actually now I've got to a point where it's more that my body's like, I really could do with some food to recover here. But my mind's like, but this is what you need to do to get your physique to stage condition. And I'm able to, you know, overcome that. And I've got coping mechanisms to be able to keep beating that. But you know what it's like, you know, when you are food focused, it completely fucks with you. Like, it's mental.
And I went to the other side of the coin, because then I got in a relationship, and obviously you go out on dates a lot and you eat and stuff like that. And she was saying to me that you've literally been punishing yourself, you know, for eating for the last year. And it was all in a short space. It was about a year, you know, to lose all that weight. It's a lot, you know. So then I got in a relationship. I gained like probably another 2 back. So I was comfortable. And the thing is, for me, like, I don't care about the size too much. I don't like the way I look, whether or not I was fucking 9 stone or 19. I don't like the way I look. You know, I don't think I'm ever gonna be comfortable with it. And because it's progressive changes. I was talking to my sister about it yesterday. I said, if I had liposuction and I got rid of all the fat in my body, I'd probably be really happy, because immediately I would see the change. But because you're losing a pound a week or gaining a pound a week or whatever it is, you're not really seeing it, and that's why obviously photos and stuff are really important.
It's such a good tool, because again, with any weight loss journey, I think that you're never ever gonna, well, you might, but I can't imagine many people would look at themselves and go, oh my God, it looks so different compared to last week, looking in the mirror. Whereas if you've got photos, you can go, actually things are coming in, or, you know, if you're gaining weight for something like strongman, you can see, oh, it's coming in the right places.
Well, that's the whole way. Like, doing it, when I decided to go and try and go for it before, I was probably eating 6,000 to 7,000 calories a day, and it wasn't clean stuff. It was, I would basically buy anything in a shop that said protein on it. In this modern day now, they put protein on cereal that hasn't changed its protein content. It's just, it has some protein in it. And the marketing aspect is terrible. So I would literally eat everything in sight, and I would train, and I would overtrain 2 days a week. So I would only train 2 days a week, and I would butcher my body and absolutely cook myself. And then I'd have too much fatigue and DOMS and everything to do anything else more than twice a week. And I just gained loads and loads of fat. I got strong. But I was taking testosterone, I was taking D-bol, I was taking equipoise, you know, I was taking something, you know, something that's for horses. It's fucking ridiculous. You know, taking the steroids, and I just got very bulky and bloated and watery, and, you know, and I didn't do it the right way. And when I was discussing with Lana, my other half, about going for it properly, she said, yeah, but we can't afford it with the amount of food you're going to have to eat and the steroids. And I said, I'm not doing any juice. You know, you can do it in the right way. If it's clean, you can eat enough protein to, you know, to satisfy you. And there's ways of doing it. I mean, I'm bulking on a budget, but it's all good because I'm losing fat at the same time. And the way that I'm doing it now is I'm measuring my body. Yeah. So I think, okay, well, if my belly's shrunk, but my chest has got wider, that's what I'm trying to go for. You know, that's, so there's ways of tracking it, but yeah, you said about social media, there's so much on there that is completely unobtainable. Like I don't know if you've heard of this guy, Larry Wheels.
No.
Okay, fucking hell, this guy's a monster. So he's a bodybuilder, like, who's like sort of stepping into strongman a bit. I'll send you a link after the pod. Yeah. But he was doing this daily eating vlog, right?
Oh God.
And this guy is juiced to the gills. He is on every single anabolic steroid you could possibly create. He's so big, and he's got stretch marks all over his shoulders and everything, like, because it's so fast. Yeah. And he said in this video, and I recorded it because I was going to post it because it's just to show you how unrealistic it is. He said he'd gained 20 kilos in 2 weeks.
Fucking hell.
20 kilos.
Yeah, and it like, you know, I've known bodybuilders to do that after a show, say.
Yeah.
That would be, you know, like, there's a massive transition for your body. There's ghrelin effect and different things that happen from being in a deficit for so long. You can just completely blow up, especially if you are on gear and whatever. There's things that can happen, but to just gain 20 kilos in 2 weeks, like, it doesn't quite, you know, you're not really striving for that, are you? To be,
but he said it was muscle. This was the whole issue I had. He said it's muscle.
Yeah.
And this is what I say to people. I'm like, you wouldn't be able to gain 20 kilos of muscle in a year.
Well, but you probably wouldn't be able to bloody gain that much in a lifetime of sport. Like, yeah.
Like 20 kilo. Like it just, and it's bad.
And
And
it's not pure muscle, is it?
no, of course it isn't. But I mean, if you're taking like something like clenbuterol that takes all your, or cuts your fat away, and then you're stacking that with loads of other things, I mean,
you can optimize gains, obviously.
Yeah, but not that much that quick.
No, and not 20 kilograms of muscle in 2 weeks.
Yeah, not pure muscle.
I mean, if it is possible, I'm game.
The thing is, though, Sarah, if you were to do that, you'd have to start really juicing, and you'd have to do with the Adam's apple, and the voice would go down. And
yeah, I mean, it is all for the sport, It is amazing, though, isn't it, mate? Like when you get into a sport and you really channel all your, emotions into it, and it becomes very intrinsic. Things come up, and you think, actually, would I be prepared to do that for the sport? And a lot of the time it's yes, and
yeah.
I've always said with things like steroids and what have you, if people want to fucking do that, let them do it,
Yeah, I say that.
If someone wants to excel at a sport and, at that point in their life, they're really wanting to pour everything into it and the options are there, why shouldn't they be able to do that? And, I've always, because people say, oh, you wouldn't do that, would you? And but who wouldn't consider things that's going to help them excel at their sport?
Well, yeah. And it is a big thing. I mean, with me, I probably wouldn't do it again. I think I don't think I got it wrong, but I just didn't like the way I felt. But that could be also because of the fact that my diet wasn't on point and my sleep wasn't on point. That's another thing. I probably slept 5 hours a night, which is really not obviously conducive for gains or anything. With me, it's each to their own. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but it just, yeah, you can't stop anybody else doing shit that they want to do, especially if it's your life. I mean, there's loads of guys on YouTube who say it, and they're like, there's people who are openly using and they don't they don't hide it, and they say, it's this is my life, this is my life.
And there's also, nowadays there is people available that you can actually reach out to and get proper advice and coaching if you're going down that route. So, I'd always say, look at where you're at as an athlete, what you're looking to achieve, and, make your mind up, is the pros and the cons worth me going down that route? And if it is, actually get some education behind it and go down that route properly. And, if you'd done that, it might have been you had a different experience. You don't know, do you? So it's definitely, it's got to be right for the person. And that's why when it comes to mental health and being a competitor and achieving in your sport, if you can say you've done the best, then what more can you do? Like, literally.
This is the thing. I think I see a lot of things online of, like 17-year-old guys getting on gear and stuff like that. And you think, look, mate, try and do it naturally for, 3 years,
See what happens.
See how far you can go. With me, I was just too impulsive. I get an idea in my head and then I'm just like gung ho, let's just do this. And you
don't have the education then, do you?
No, not at all. Not at all. I didn't prepare. I didn't have any, much advice or anything like that. I just sort of went off my own back, and I just felt fatigued. I just felt really, really tired, and I was out of breath all the time and sweaty, and I just ballooned up. And obviously, test makes you carry a lot of water. I would just say with anybody, do your research. I'm not advocating steroids or anything like that. I think it's each to their own. I think I'm all for like testosterone replacement therapy in older men. I think that's important because testosterone is a foundation for conducive mental and physical health for men. And obviously, once you hit 40, the sand timer turns and your testosterone depletes every single year. So I think it's important. But with obviously with your work, your ambition, your everything, does it bother you, when people talk about steroids who aren't really that educated and they say like, oh, well, it's cheating?
Yeah, I used to, way back when I didn't really know much about it, and I was probably quite naive in the sport of bodybuilding that it even happened. I used to take it like, why are these people slagging off bodybuilding when they don't know about it?
Yeah.
And I took it like almost personally, because you're probably the same with strongman. If anyone says anything negative about bodybuilding, I'm like, hold on a minute here.
Yeah. I was like that with Lana.
Yeah. And it's like, I can't help but get a bit defensive about it. But now I'm like, as soon as someone says something, I turn around, because I had to do this the other day. I turn around and I say, look, we'd be naive to think in any sporting world, if you're going to excel, that steroids don't happen. And if someone is willing to make that decision and they'd like to go down that route to, optimize their performance and be able to excel in what they're doing, then let them do that. Don't cast your own opinions that it's cheating when, a lot of the bodybuilding categories, you could look across, say, my category of bikini, probably 80% of the girls are assisted. So why is it cheating if you're then joining and making it 85%? It's like, it's really difficult.
That's the thing, to be able to, to be a competitor. Are you going to be able to keep up if everybody else is doing it and you're not?
And it's a decision you make. But there is also, I always speak to people about, there's natural and tested federations. So
absolutely,
and you can probably have the same with a lot of sports. If you're very, very passionate about staying natural, then go with the tested federations, and you can hand on heart say, I'm up against someone of my level.
But
I think it's fascinating, really, like the whole thing. When you look at different sports like strongman and bodybuilding, it's extreme versions of sport, isn't it? Like, and anyone can get into it. And I just think it's such a cool thing, because it gives people hope and it gives people a reason to want to achieve.
And it has me, the last 2 years mentally for me have been some of the hardest years of my life. And especially with not too many outside factors, and most of it is just things I'm going through in my own mind, with little kind of external triggers. Obviously COVID, lockdown, everything like that was very challenging, for everybody. But like, but like for me now, I love the sport. I've always been really into strongman. I've watched World's Strongest Man since I was a kid. I'm a big guy. I like the camaraderie aspect. They're all kind of family men, and it's very nice. It's not like really arrogant and superficial. It's quite a humble sport, and everybody kind of G's everybody on, and I need things to look forward to. I said this in my last podcast, and you can probably relate to this. You've got to have goals and aspirations to build you up and drive you forward to succeed, because if you don't, you just end up thinking, well, what now? Like, and I've done that many times. I achieve something with nothing else lined up, and then I just go, fuck, what am I supposed to do now? Like,
mate, like this is the biggest part of probably what we're going to talk about today, because I cannot stress enough to people, it doesn't have to be this monumental thing, but something to look forward to. It's like just even something small, like we said, when you're coming back from your injury, going into deadlift and building your weight up, even getting a PB from now, adding 5 kg, it's such a good feeling. Like,
unreal. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm writing all my lifts down, and it's literally just each week, if I can make one little incremental change, then I'm stronger than I was last week, or mentally I'm prepared to push myself further than I did last week. So I'm winning,
Yeah. And it, like you said with strongman, I think you'll find when you do compete that maybe the pressurized, I guess, scenarios you're thinking it might be, like it's probably a lot of it's going to be your own pressure that you're putting on yourself. And you'll go and think, that was fucking awesome. Because
well, this is it,
it's a celebration of lifting.
Literally.
Like, what more could you want?
And with me, it's like, it's so suited, because I've always been the guy that lifts shit up, or if anybody's moving house, if you need some backup, or you need someone to move a sofa, I'm your man. Yeah, literally. Like, I've always been that person.
So cool. Like, I do think, like, strongman and stuff, like, I did some like training with deadlifts and things, like I said to you on our voice note. And even getting to 100 kilogram 1 rep max on the deadlift for me was massive.
Incredible.
yeah, and I felt like really, really chuffed with that, and it was a massive thing for me. But for me to try and do that more, like I'm not really built. I'm really good with the bodybuilding stuff, and that was like just a little goal for me. But I can see how people get into strongman, because when I hit that 100K, it was fucking unbelievable, and it was so cool. Like, and all the strongmen I know, and the different events, like I said to you, there's one in Lancing and different things going on.
Yeah.
When you go to these events, it's such a good vibe. Like, it's really cool.
And that's the thing that draws you in. It just seems to suit me. And even for my own personal development, having something to focus on is good. But when I know it's going to be a competition, and I want to win. Of course I do. Obviously, I want to win.
I mean, we'd be lying, wouldn't we, if we said we did.
Yeah, of course. But also, you know, I feel like if I didn't, I wouldn't be ashamed, or, you know, I feel like it's a nice environment enough to kind of cradle that, so you wouldn't feel really pissed off and fed up, because everyone would just be having a go. It's like there's strongmen who've been to Worlds 15 times and have never won, or not even placed in the top 3, but they keep coming back, and that's what I love about it. And for me, as it was before, like, you know, when I sort of dipped my toe in before, it was like, I just want to be the strongest motherfucker on the planet. Like, I want to be the strongest version of me that there could possibly be. And that's why it was like, whatever it takes, I'll eat everything, I'll take everything, whatever it is, to do it. But now I'm looking at it from a more kind of professional, long-term sort of way, and setting myself SMART goals, which I was going to ask you about, because you said about SMART goals. And it speaks to me, you know, because I get, when you were saying about that, you know, saying I want to lose 4 stone and setting yourself that's the reason that I did so many crash diets and stuff like that, because I would always say, okay, I'm going to lose 5 stone, and I want to do it, and I want to do it by, you know, next year or something like that. So you try everything, you try slimming pills, you try celery juice, you try everything, you know, cleanses, and none of it works, because you're not doing it in the right way. You're not in it for the long game. And now I feel like I'm approaching it like an adult, you know?
It's so like, it's just relentless. And then you become this, like, you're almost narcissistic. Like, why you're thinking, why is everyone eating chocolate when I can't? Why is people doing this? Why are people doing that? And you start becoming this, like, you know, irrational, hypersensitive person, because also you're over dieted and you're not treating yourself very well.
This is exactly me. That was me to a T.
Yeah, and your self-talk, you know, I once heard on a podcast, which I'll always remember, the guy said, would you talk to other people like you talk to yourself? And the answer is no most of the time. And actually, since I heard that, I'm almost like, I'm probably talking to myself too nice, because when I'm a bit of a dick or whatever, you know, or be short with someone or something, and then I'm like, but that felt right for me. And then I'm thinking, okay, you're maybe being a bit. So there's that level, isn't there? But would you be going to yourself, you're a fat this, you're horrible, you don't deserve this, you don't? Would you speak to someone else like that? No. So why,
of course not.
you know, why in every other thought are you thinking you're horrible, you're ugly, you're not good enough, you're never going to make it, you're never this, you're never that? And it's so, you know, you're on self-destruct, and it's not till you maybe, I guess, also finding the people that, like you found your girlfriend, finding the people that accept you for you and that actually want to see you succeed, not just superficially. And
it's succeed. Like, I had this kind of unrealistic expectation of what life is supposed to be. You know, I thought, okay, well, you need to make sure that you're successful, provide for your family, work comes first, all this sort of stuff, because my dad was very much like that. You know, the kids came second and work came first kind of thing, and he had a lot of problems. I have my own son now, and I'm rewriting the history of my family, because I'm a dad first, and then everything else comes second.
Amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's to say thank you, but that's literally the way that parenting should be. You put your kids before anything, and that's that.
Yeah, 100%.
Otherwise, you shouldn't even get into. You know, it's weird, right? Because you don't really get it, and I kind of was like all right with kids. you know, before I had one. I was just sort of, you know, if I ever went to like a barbecue or something like that and there were kids running out, I was always like, oh, for fuck's sake. Because I'm just like, I thought this was going to be grown-ups. Yeah, I just wanted to have fun. And like, now I'm going to have to like be on my guard and behave and all this stuff, you know, because I used to be a bit wild. Yeah, exactly. Which I'm actually getting pretty good at that now. Like when there's podcasts and stuff, I'm like, fuck this and shit that. But when Lucius is around, I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty good. But yeah, then when I had one, it's kind of like you think of your, like you think of like a partner or your mum or your dog or something like that, you know, how much you could ever physically love someone and the bar is exploding, right? Like top end, you could never love anyone more. And then you have a kid and it's like somebody opening the trap door and you can go through and you're like, fucking hell, there's more. Like, you know, like you just immediately, the second you see this squishy little prune that doesn't look anything like you, you're like, I would die for you like that. Like, I wouldn't even think about it. So that's why now it's having the right attitude towards it. And anyway, that's parenting. So
I guess that a relevant point with training when you're looking at what your expectations are from training in general, let alone in going into a sport and trying to excel. I always have this conversation when I take on new PT clients. I say to them, what are your goals? And I say, can I ask you, you know, what your jobs are? Have you got children? Da, 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 da. And then it's, you know, does this goal marry up with your lifestyle? And is this a realistic expectation when we mold the two? And sometimes people go, oh, actually, I don't have the time to get shredded, or I've got the time, but actually, I don't know if I want to be hungry. You know, all these things come up, and I think you see in your mind, I want to be this physique or whatever, or I want to lift this much. When people realize what goes into getting to a certain physique or lifting a certain weight, it's like, actually, I don't know if I want to do that. I think I'm actually happier being a dad, doing X, Y, and Z at my job, but being able to lift slightly less than that, or, you know, getting lean, but maybe not having a six pack all the time. So that really speaks to me. And I actually talked to Lana about it because she said that, I mean, I would literally be lost without her. I mean, I've been in numerous long-term relationships, and me and Lana, funny enough, we were friends for like 2 years before we got together. We were pals and we used to talk to each other about other dates we've been on and shit. Like, you know, it was weird. And literally it was really, really odd. And then, you know, then we just sort of, random selection of events happen and we ended up together. And it's like, it feels like we've always been together, you know, and it was always meant to happen kind of thing. Amazing.
Thank you. And it's, she sort of, we had a discussion and she said, you know, you want to be like this big gorilla and be really, really strong, but you also want to look like the way you look in your clothes, which is when you're skinnier. Because I've been 14 stone and I've been 21 stone. So really I've been, and everywhere in between. So but even when I was 14 stone, I didn't like the way I looked. Yeah. So really it's about doing the internal work and then deciding kind of what makes you happy. And to be honest, me carrying a bit of extra fat, I know that will go. It won't all go because you have to eat a lot, but you know, it will go down certainly, and the muscle will grow. And I've got a great foundation. I mean, the way that I looked at it at school, I was, you know, picked on because I was fat and whatever. And I sort of, I moved from Billingshurst down to Worthing, so I went to a music college, and I decided to, you know, I'd always sort of done weightlifting here and there. Like I used to train at, you know, where you used to work. I remember when they were building it, you know, because I went to school at the Weald. It was right next to it, you know. So it was the same thing. I actually had my old PE teacher from the Weald on here as well. It was banging. I was like, you probably don't remember me that much because, you know, I didn't do sport. I was fat. I was eating.
The thing is, doesn't all of this come from childhood? Like the people we are today, it's like, fucking hell, you know, so much of your childhood rubs off on who you then become. And I don't know about you, but to try and drop certain habits and behaviors that I've got inherently from my childhood is so fucking hard. Yeah.
Although I'm reparenting 10-year-old me, and have been for the last 6 months in therapy. You know, I'm trying to unlearn the things that aren't right. And I'm having these epiphany moments every day or whenever I do my therapy, thinking, oh shit, life isn't like what I think it is. Or I'm not supposed to be like, because I hold myself to this unattainable standard of something. It's like the way my mind works is it's almost like there's a panel of judges and everything I do, they are judging what I'm doing, even though there's no one there. And my dad used to knock me down a lot about, you know, being too sensitive and not being manly enough and all these sorts of things. So that's what I think drove me to want to do rugby and get into boxing and whatever, anything contact, you know, to sort of man myself up. Yeah. And now I'm completely the other way. I'm a gentle giant, you know, I want to, you know, my son Lucius is sensitive and he tells me when he's upset and he tells me why and stuff. And that is fucking invaluable. Yeah. You know, that shit is how you want your children to be. I mean, even if they're not, it's fine. But my family, since my parents split up, my mum's very emotionally switched on and very pro empathy and things. And I've got 2 sisters and a brother, and we're all formed this sort of unit, and we're all very open about our feelings and we always talk about stuff. And there's always fantastic communication there, which I think is fundamental.
And I find as well, you know, I don't know about you, but the more you can communicate openly as you go, actually, you know, the things that once would have been an absolute massive thing in your mind, if you can just turn around and say to someone, you know, actually, I don't like you saying it like that. Is it okay if you sort of, you know, either don't say it or say it in a different way? And they go, oh, okay. And then it's like, oh, that was really easy. And then you can move on together and, oh my God, life becomes so much more simple.
Yeah. And I think a big thing, like what you were saying about your internal voice being overly nice to you, you know, and it's kind of, that's what I sort of did. Like for me, because my dad wasn't around, I became the protector of the house. And everybody else's feelings and importance and everything came before mine. So I'm at the bottom of the pecking order. I want to make sure everybody's okay. You're all out of the burning ship, onto the helicopter. And then I'm at the end while the ship's going down going, you know, because I wanted to make sure that everyone else is fine before me. Fuck! But now I've sort of flipped the pendulum. It's gone the other way because now I'm about looking after me because if I'm not okay, then the whole thing's fucked. I'm not a good parent. I'm not a good partner. I can't function properly. I can't sleep properly. You know, I don't maintain good relationships with friends. I'm not, I'm no good. And there is a balance. You can look after yourself and others equally.
And but you don't now have to be arrogant, do you?
No, not at all. Not at all. You can still be nice about it.
You like, it's like, nowadays I think, you know, if I know what I like and I'm happy to say that and people don't like that, then unfortunately, maybe they're not the people that I need in my life. And yeah, it's hard, but I don't know, you know, what level yes, you put other people first and you consider other people's feelings and you watch what you say in certain environments and everything else. And depending on what you know, if you're in work, if you're at home, whatever. But at what level is it okay for it to cause a problem for your own mental health, you know?
1 million billion %. I think now I've become I don't think I'm special or anything like that, but my time is precious to me.
Yeah, it is though.
And the way I think about it is if one person says something that I really don't like, that really bugs me, I won't, you know, depending on the situation, 9.5 times out of 10, I wouldn't kick off with them or anything like that. I'll just never talk to them again. Just cut them off. Not a problem.
It's not, I'm stacking you off, mate. See ya.
Yeah, literally. No, literally. You're on a fucking, you know, you're on a very small tightrope with me. Everybody is, because I protect my own space, and I've grown so much in the last couple of years that I won't have anybody on board who's not positive and not about, you know, excelling and pushing me to be better and me pushing them to be better. And that's you have to be like that. Like one guy, right? Considering I've been training on and off since I was about 6 years old, albeit not the right way. So I've got, you know, still try. So I've got overdeveloped muscles in some places, underdeveloped in the other. You know, I was just doing what I wanted to do just to try. And this one guy messaged me saying, oh, you don't even go to the gym. And this is a guy I went to college with, like he was a close mate. And he went, oh, you don't even go to the gym. Don't bullshit me, mate. You're only saying it because you you want to be excited about going back to the gym after the pandemic like all the other gym goers. And he was basically just slating me. So I just sent him a message back and I said, you're completely off. You're obviously very deluded and I feel sorry for you. And I just blocked him on everything. Like, because I'm not going to get into an argument with someone. I'll just fucking ditch you. I don't care. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't lose any sleep.
Yeah.
You need to be, though.
Exactly.
Apply that discipline, that mentality that you have for everything, and do it for yourself, not just for bodybuilding or for strongman or for, whatever you're doing. Apply it to every single facet of your life, because you will become very powerful when you can harness your own energy and you know exactly what you need and don't need. And my mum said to me, she was like, it took me into my 40s to be able to say no to people.
And the thing is, as well, like, I guess for me, bodybuilding, I don't know if you've had similar experiences, like people, because they either don't get it or they don't want to get it, or maybe they wouldn't be able to do it, so they have a negative connotation with it. I've come across people that are, actually quite maybe rude or, should you be eating that? And I think, I'm fucking eating it, so I hope so. And there's all these comments and things that people say, and I think, do you know what? You do what you're doing and let me do what I'm doing. I'm not doing this for anyone else. This is for me. So why are you questioning what I'm doing? And it's, for me, I had to get to that point where I can be, like you said, you just send a message saying, look, you're quite polite about it, X, Y, and Z, rather than, you could easily phone him and say, you're a fucking this, and really let rip. But now it's like, we've matured enough to go, actually, you can say to someone, look, can you not say that? I'd prefer you not to contact me again. And that's it.
Yeah. And that stings. Doesn't that sting a whole lot more?
Oh, yeah.
Like, mate, if you really want to hurt someone, say less.
Yeah. Because it's like, I guess, when you look at it as well, from an outsider's point of view, it's like, for a start, why are they saying it? And a lot of the time it's because they've got their own shit going on.
This is how I look at it. Yeah, this is always how I look at it. I always try, and this is why, like, growing up, because of like how angry I was towards my dad, I basically took that out on everyone else. And I was a very, very aggressive, angry person. And I used to go around punching holes in all the doors in the house and screaming the house down and all that stuff. I was a teenager and I was reckless, and I never hit anybody. It was always inanimate objects, but there was no sort of healthy way of doing it. And I would blow up at anybody for nothing, and now it's that kind of, I've still got a temper, as I think anybody does. But I have a kind of few moments of peace before I decide what I'm going to do with it. And 9 times out of 10, I don't lose my rag. I don't. You get very patient as you get older, I think. And I think with like having a kid and stuff, you get more patient. And I just think it's only going to hurt me because I'm going to lose my temper, but then I'll be worried to say what I want to say because I don't want to upset them at the same time. So then I'm internalizing that fuel and that fire inside, and that makes you more bugged. And it's just about taking a deep breath and just ignore it. And think about, you never know what someone's going through. Someone might have just found out that their dad's died or their mum has cancer. You just do not know. So it's best just to stay quiet and let it happen. Yeah,
it's that example, like always use that example, like when you're driving and someone pulls out in a roundabout and you're going, what the fuck are you doing? And then you think, but you don't know. They might be on the way to the hospital to say goodbye to someone. Okay, that's probably, it's not going to happen all the time. But I always think, they've pulled out, get over it. Like, what? You don't need to let that ruin your day because someone's pulled out in front of you. Nothing's happened.
Yeah, literally. That's the whole thing. It's like, just keep it in perspective. You haven't. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem. It doesn't seem right to just. No, not at all. It doesn't seem right just to blow up. At all. Sorry. Right, sorry, it's saying my connection was unstable. I was panicking for a second then. It's not conducive whatsoever. It's and my dad, funny enough, said that years ago. He said, while you're effing and jeffing and all that stuff, you'll only end up going into the back of someone and causing more drama and all that stuff. So
the thing is, when you are effing at the time, it's like, it's so consuming, isn't it? So you feel like you're being completely irrational when you're having a go at someone and taking it out on them. And then an hour later you think, Christ, I was just being an absolute lunatic. But, you know, at the time, it's almost like if you're too emotive, that's leading you, and you're saying things that are irrational rather than taking a step back and thinking, okay, what's this situation? How can I deal with it? And then going into it rather than.
It's better to be able to have that break, that sort of buffer.
Yeah.
I'm completely in agreement with that. So I wanted to ask, actually, obviously, with regards to everything that you have to do and everything that it takes to get into a show. I'm guessing there's a lot of kind of saying no to things and a lot of obstacles that you have to overcome. I mean, throughout the process of getting into becoming a professional bodybuilder, was there anything that you found particularly difficult mentally that you had to sort of learn to sit with and overcome?
I guess so. The first couple of seasons where I wasn't successful placing wise, I had to realize that actually for those couple of seasons, I didn't have the physique that was worthy of a placing. And actually those couple of preps still gave me a lot in regards to knowing that I could complete a prep, knowing that I could, you know, do it again, knowing that I was able to get on stage, all of those things that still contribute to the success that I've had. Challenges wise, I guess, sort of what we touched on there, being able to own what I'm doing as a choice and being able to still go to things like social occasions and different things and not be like, I have to eat out my Tupperware at 2:00 on the dot because otherwise I'm going to, you know, ruin protein synthesis. All my muscles going to go and I'm not going to be able to be a bodybuilder anymore. And be able to be like, okay, so if I eat at 3:30, I'm not going to die. Wow. So it's like that realization that you can be a bodybuilder and have a normal life to a certain degree as well.
Yeah. I think that's, I can kind of appreciate that, because I look at, well, you know, like just dieting, but then obviously when you're trying to get, I don't know, I think like with me, I don't know if you have had this, but you get like borderline obsessive.
100%. I've definitely had that.
Yeah, and it's almost like you were just saying then, if I don't eat by 3, I'm going to die or something like that. And it was like, oh God, I've missed a meal, for fuck's sake, and like this, that, and the other, you know. And it becomes really. And I think that was a big thing that Lana was worried about, you know, with me doing this, is, you know, because she knows that I get quite obsessive, and then if I don't eat at the right time, or if I do eat something sweet on or something, that I'll beat myself up about it, it'd be even worse, you know.
Yeah, and the whole day is ruined.
Yeah, absolutely. And then yeah, the next few days I've got to try and survive on 900 calories because I overdid it.
Yeah, and then she knows you're going to be moody for 3 days. You won't want to go out the house. You won't want to do anything, and it does become ever consuming. And I think what I've realized is that it's only been so consuming at certain points because I care so much, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And when you realize you really do care about it and it's important to you, but you're okay to be a normal person at times, then you can find a balance and you can accept it, but also being open and honest with those around you. So whatever walk of life you're going down, talk to people about it and tell them, you know, if your mum doesn't get that you're going to go into strongman, try and tell her why, try and explain, you know, what you get from it. And then she might go, oh, okay, I can see why he wants to do that a bit more. I don't want to do it, but he does. So, you know, if you can have a conversation.
And that was a really big one, I think. I think explaining it to people who are close and like, you know, this is going to be good. And like, there's obviously people, on the whole, I kind of, with my anxiety, I sort of make up people's minds for them before I've even spoken to them. So I kind of assume that what you're going to say, and, you know, without you and I having the conversation, I might say, oh, Sarah would say that she doesn't agree with me doing that because of X, Y, Z, without even having to talk to you. And when the reality is, it's not like that, you know. And there's me telling my mum and stuff and thinking, you know, this is what I'm going to do. And, you know, she's going to disprove because I could hurt myself and all that stuff. And she was like, no, if it makes you happy, like, go for it, you know. And that's the kind of energy I need. Yeah. That's very important. I think that's
massive.
Yeah. It's like having that, like, I don't need you to do it in order to do it, because I'm going to do it anyway because it makes me happy. But yes, having people backing you and having some support is massive. And yeah, having a kind of close knit support network, because like, I don't know, you tell people certain things, and like I went vegan at the beginning of the year just to sort of try.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute, mate. Christ. Yeah. No meat.
Mate, I did it for 6 weeks, and and I felt good. Like I was sleeping better. I wasn't ever bloated or anything. Like I felt really good, but my mental health wasn't very good. And with me, when my mental health's really bad, I have to kind of revert to what's familiar in order to get me through. Yeah. So not that I was eating burgers every day or anything like that, but just having meat in my diet is such a staple. And and I love cooking. I really, really love cooking. So, and I'm a good cook. So also I cook meat really, really well. So it's also like it's a passionate kind of thing as well. That's catharsis for me. That's a good way of making me feel good. Taking a bit more time in cooking and stuff. And cooking's a big part as well, because it to try and keep some variety, because I get bored very quickly. But yeah, I gave it a try. Yeah, I gave it a try, and Lana's vegan, so it wasn't like the hardest thing in the world, because I've got someone else there. I know what I can and can't eat. I know what and I felt good for it, and I do really love animals, so I felt kind of better in my in my mind. But ultimately, with the way, especially with the diet that I'm doing now and stuff like that, it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't. It wouldn't work. I mean, I'm kind of. I don't know if you know who Stan Efferding is.
No.
He's the world's strongest bodybuilder. He's basically like an American influencer and bodybuilder. He's very, very talented, and he's an absolute monster. He's huge. But he coined this thing called the vertical diet. And the vertical diet is basically based around gut health.
Okay.
So like the only carbohydrates you have is like white rice or potatoes. You have strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, you have oats, grass-fed beef, grass-fed butter. It's like higher fats, but like healthy fats, obviously, like cold-pressed oils and like olive oil and stuff, and red meat, and lots of veg and things like that. But so I kind of follow that, because bread doesn't sit immensely well with me, dairy doesn't sit immensely well with me. But like you were saying before, and it stuck with me when you said it, you're not that person, you're you. So that's a really big thing for me, is because I want someone else's diet plan, or I want somebody else's training plan or anything like that. But ultimately, it isn't going to work for me.
And take what you want from it, take what does work from it, and make your own version. Like, it's so important for people to realize that, if you want to follow most of a vegan diet, but actually you still like fish, then, no one really needs to know what you eat. If you're pretty much vegan, you might have a conversation with people and say, look, I don't eat meat, but I do like fish. But straight away people go, oh, well, you're not a vegan then, or you're not a veg. And it becomes this like, because you've labeled it, everyone gets all catty, and it's like, just eat what you want to eat, do what you want to do. And if it sits well with you, to be quite honest, who gives a fuck what everyone else thinks? Do you know what I mean?
And that's the biggest thing, mate. I don't want to care what other people think, but I do. And that's the hardest thing. And again, and like when I went vegan, when I then started, I think what had happened was, I think I got drunk and I ordered a Domino's or something with pepperoni on it or something, and it was kind of like, and it was like, and I felt terrible. I was like, you fucking idiot! Like, how could you do? And I felt like the vegan police were like spying on me, like any minute now someone's gonna like pop up and go, he's not vegan, he's not vegan,
He's a liar.
Yeah. So then. And like the thing is with the podcast, I don't hold anything back. Like, it's full honesty. So, I would be honest about it anyway. But I did feel really guilty because I wasn't applying myself to this thing wholeheartedly. And it's like I did, what do they call it? Keto. I did that last year. So no carbohydrates, zero. And when you have like, you get to a point where your energy levels are just fucked and you need some carbohydrates to give you energy for the gym. And you have something, and then you're like, fuck, I feel terrible now because I'm not doing this. It's like being part of a cult or a religion or something. It's like you feel like you're not doing what is part of the routine or the structure. When the reality is, why am I holding myself to principles of other people that don't exist and apply to me?
Yeah. And it's trying to work for you, working towards that attitude of, do you know what, it sits well with me. And that will be hard for you. Like it's such a journey, like to not take on board everything everyone else says, or, you know, thinking, oh, they must be thinking this. But like you said, you're thinking they must be thinking this, but they may not even be thinking that. And it's like this whole...
Yeah, it's this cycling thing, and that's the issue. I always, you know, the truth of the matter is, and I've said this multiple times, you know, over different episodes, I worry so much about what other people think when I'm just passing someone in the street. And reality is, they've probably got 1,000,001 things going on in their mind. They didn't even notice me, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, that's one of the thing is with me, right? And my therapist says this, I can articulate what's rational and what isn't. Like I can say, you know, and I was worried about this, and that's ridiculous, isn't it? I can say that, but I don't really quite 100% believe it. It's still in the back of my mind, like, yeah, but he might be talking about you, you know. So it's like a really funny thing. You're just continually being like pushed and pulled by your brain.
Yeah, but it's going to be human nature to a certain degree, isn't it? It's not really, you know, I speak with people about, you know, having negative for what people would class as negative. What's wrong with that? Like, what's wrong with seeing something on TV and going, God, I wouldn't do it like that. That's okay. Like, but then it's when you start to impart that on everyone else, and, you know, you start saying, oh, why have I, you know, you're inside your head going, why have I thought like that? Or you start saying to the person next to you, well, they shouldn't be doing that. And then it becomes this whole, like, internally, externally, it becomes negative when it doesn't need to be. You can just have an opinion, which is, you know, it's cool. It's what you do with that. And if that becomes self-destructive or destructive in your own relationships, that's when it's a problem.
Yeah, completely. You're 100% right. You've got to sort of have a handle on it. There's got to be a level of control if you can. And that's a hard thing.
It is what it is, isn't it? You know, you've fought it. And whether it's, you know, if it's something really extreme that you shouldn't be thinking, or you're telling yourself you shouldn't be thinking it, you fought it. So there's not much you can do apart from go, well, I wonder why I'm thinking that way. You know, if you don't want to think that way again, you can maybe do some work on trying to work out why you're thinking that way, how you want to move forward with that.
Well, yeah. And that was a massive thing for me. It was like, I keep trying to change the external, but I'm not doing any work on the internal.
Yes,
You know, and until you sort of sort out your mind and sort out your mindset and where you're going and what you're doing and how you view things and react to things, you're not really going to progress anyway. You're just going to keep repeating the same pattern until you make some bigger changes. And I did that with therapy and stuff. I put like difficult things off and growth things for years because it's like, yeah, but it's not convenient right now. But when ultimately you have to unpick you have to go down deep in the soil to the Earth's core and start fixing that shit before you can fix everything else.
Yeah, it's like, I haven't got time to unearth that habit.
Yeah, literally. No, but it does become that. You're like, yeah, well, I really
100%.
don't. I know how long it's going to take me to sort that shit out, and I don't have time. Like, I just don't have time. And time is another thing. Yeah. That's it. And timing is another thing because I got to a point like when I was working for the law place and stuff that the work kind of consumes your life, and you're sort of like, you start realizing that you're saying no to everything because you're too tired. And that's not a life I want to lead either. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to say no to everything social because your work is not your life. I mean, it can become that if it's part of your passion, like if you want it to be, precisely. So like what you're doing, that is part of your life because it doesn't stop. When you're outside the gym, it's just as important as when you're inside the gym or when you're on stage or whatever it is. Every single minute of your time counts towards when you win, you know, when you get up there.
Picture. Yeah. And also, you know, it's when people say, are you not hating it being hungry? Are you not hating it training so much? I'm like, no, because I want to. Like, if I'm hungry, it means it's working. So let's crack on.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny, Lana said that when I started this new program, because my program for the last couple of months has been basically push, pull, legs, and then whatever else on the last day doesn't feel too sore, I'll do that again. You know, like, so it's a bit of a medley kind of day. And now it's like, the program is working on obviously the compound lifts that you would need for strongman, but also working on my weaknesses. So not just hitting like the front of my shoulder, but hitting all three heads of my shoulder, because like my rear delts are quite weak. So I want to work on that. You know, my back squat wasn't very good because that's when I injured myself. So I was worried about that. So I want to work on getting my back squat up. So it's basically just finding everything that you're not as confident or good at and then working on that. And I think that's like the best way to build strong everything, you know, and that's what's going to be the difference maker for me.
Yeah, and it's training, but also mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love it. Do you know, I love it. Whenever I'm not in the gym, I'm focusing on, you know, uploading my food to Instagram, or I'm thinking of, or I'm watching a documentary about a strongman's journey, or a new training video, or some like diet ideas, a high protein, low carb, all the and it's not even obsession because I can switch it off, but I just love it.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like I, you know, when you like ban yourself from right, I'm not going to go on Instagram today, and then I think, why am I banning myself when I bloody love going on Instagram? Like,
I do what I want. Yeah, I will do what I want.
Yeah,
and that's dangerous though, because also now, like I look back on the previous job I had, and I think the things that that people tell you to do, and having to like account for every single minute of your time for a job that you don't care that much about, and you try your best because because I'm a good worker. You know, I try to make everybody happy and impress everyone and do the best that I can. But ultimately, it's not what I want to do. So I'm never going to give it 100,000,000% of my effort. And especially when people are picking you up on stupid little things and stuff, and you just think, I don't give a fuck about this. And like, I'm not good with people telling me what to do unless it's for something that I want. So, you know, if Lana said I was out of line, or if I had a coach and they said, you need to cut this or you need to focus more on that, I'd be like, okay, cool. Because it's all, you know, to quote the Joker, it's all part of the plan. You know, it's and that's
the plan.
yeah. That's it, and it's all part of that, and that will come. I think in time. At the moment, I'm just trying to figure things out. Like I said, I'm doing music production, voiceover, singing, strongman stuff. I'm doing a bit of everything just to see what kind of sticks. But the physical side, the strongman side, gives me so much, and has such a positive impact on every other aspect of my life that's the driving force at the moment. And I think for fear of judgment, I haven't done it for years, and fear of injury again, of course. But now it's like you've got more time on your hands than you've ever had. Make it happen. If you want it hard enough, make it happen.
Yeah, and that is such an important message, isn't it? What are you waiting for? You know, even if you start with a really small change towards a bigger goal, then that's, you know, it's excellent. And for you, like even maybe going to watch some strongman events on the lead up to you then competing and stuff like that, like, I always find for me it's really cool to go and do some things with other bodybuilders, just to like get the feel for what that's like in that atmosphere, because we all live in, you know, you're in your house, then you're at work, and you're in your bubble, and then if you can sort of, I guess, be with other like-minded people, get the vibe as to what it's going to feel like when you're there competing, it's a really good thing to do, and also something to look forward to, isn't it?
Well, actually, yeah, it made me think about that, because you know, you said to me before you're going to go down to Lancing, and I mean that's one I want to compete in. Obviously, I'm not ready yet, but I will next year. But about going down there, and I thought, well, I'll have Lucius, and it would be a nightmare, and I wouldn't be able to do. But then I thought, actually, it would be quite fun. Like just go there with him, because he's fascinated by the gym. He loves it, because I talk to him that, you know, he knows I go to the gym 4 times a week, and you know that I like lifting stuff. And he said it was so funny. We were there with I think it was his cousin or something like that. And he turned and it's the first time I'd met his little cousin, and on his mum's side, because obviously I'm not with his mum. And he said, and he went, "This is my dad. He goes to the gym."
Love it.
And I was like,
really cool. Like, love it.
Yeah, I've got
being local, it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it would be really, really fun to go down with him. And if he's had enough, we can leave. But it's definitely something I want to do. And there was one there's one in Bognor actually.
Whereabouts is that?
I don't know if it's. I was talking to Chris about it, funny enough, because he said that the gym has changed. The gym used to be behind Tesco's, like in that industrial estate.
Okay, yeah.
And it was, I can't remember what it was called, but they had a strongman event on in June, gone. So I'd like to do that as well. Because Lana's family live in Feltham, so it would be like good to like get them to come down and watch and stuff. Because I want people to see. I want, because not that I need that, but having that support is good, and
it just it's a cherry on top, mate. It's like you said, it's not needed, but it's like if you can have some people there, it's just your little squad there, isn't it? It's nice.
Yeah, exactly. And and another thing with me, which is quite funny, like Lana's become a bit of a cheerleader for me because I think she had some trepidation about it, about me. But I think because she can see how much I care about it and how much it makes me happy, she's now like, like I was doing bench press the other day and the last couple of reps were a struggle and she was like trying not to scream at me to get me to pick it up, and push it up. And she's looking at me, she's going, come on, you can do this, come on, and all this stuff. And
nice.
that to me, I was just exhilarated. I'm like, this is what I need. Like, and I did a quite a big farmer's walk about a month ago. And it was really funny because with me, if you tell me I can't do something, I'll do it to spite you. So that make you wrong,
Yeah.
What sparked me losing all that weight was the doctor said, well, you're very overweight. And I went, yeah, but I'm not that bad, am I? And he went, you are. Yeah. So that was me. I was just like, I'll see you next year, you fucking prick. Like, here we go.
Yeah. But actually, it's almost like it can be a good thing, can't it? That level of honesty, but it's how you digest it and then move forward.
Oh, I was mortally wounded by that. Like that hurt. That hurt like shit. But then again, I went back there 18 months later, 5 stone lighter with a big grin on my face. And he went, well, I can see you. Yeah. And he can say, oh, I can see you've lost some weight. Good. And straight on to the next thing. And it was like, it didn't even matter to him how much I've just sacrificed to get there.
Isn't that a great example of how much other people actually do care?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Again, I try and remind myself of that because it really is.
Brilliant. Like that's such a good example that's fresh in your mind because it was such a big thing for you. Every time you have thoughts, you can zone in on, no, they don't actually care that much. Come on, be rational. Yeah.
This is what I try. I'm getting better every single time I get annoyed about something or I'm confused or whatever. It's all part of the process of kind of, like I said, kind of reparenting yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lana said before I did this farmer's walk, basically someone had set a record in the gym and it was like 170 kilos, across 2 hands, obviously. So,
yeah.
So someone had set that and I sort of said, oh, kind of jokingly, I'll have a pop at that. And I hadn't done farmers anywhere near that heavy. I think the most I'd done was like 60 aside to like like 120 or something like that, in the last few months. So I did 170 and I did it for 10 meters and I was like, that was a piece of piss. And then I was like, okay, well there's more then because I've got to do more. Yeah. So then I did 180 and that was a doddle. And then I did 190 and that was a doddle. But my grip was not starting, kind of not. But just before I did the 190, Lana said to me, you can't do this, don't you? and I went, fuck you.
Yes.
And then I did it. So it's just like, and that's the thing. She knows that that's the way to get me. But then, there'd be other people. You'd say, oh, you can't do this, and they go, oh God, can I not? And they wouldn't register it the same way as I do. And I tried for the 200, and I dropped it. I got about 2 meters, and I dropped it because my hands just went.
You've already done the sets and the lead up.
I did. No, it was at the end of my pull session. I'd literally already done 2 hours in the gym. So I was burning the candle at both ends a little bit. And funny enough, I actually strained my shoulder a few days after, which I think had come from that. And I had to have a week off the gym. So it swings and roundabouts. So with regards to your prep now, I mean, just out of my own curiosity, really, what does your diet look like now? Like, what are you taking in?
So I've just had a decrease in my macros. So I do flexible dieting through my Fitness Pal.
Yeah.
So I have 150 grams of carbs a day.
Yeah.
I have 40 grams of fat and 170 grams of protein. So my carbs at the height of my off season went up to sort of 275 to 300. So it gives you an idea as to, it's basically half of what I was on at the height of my growth phase. My fats went up to like 60 to 70 and now they're 40. I can function quite well on like the lower fat. I'd rather have some carbohydrates there than take too much from the fat. And then I'm exercising like probably 10 to 12 hours a week, and I do like maybe 15 to 20,000 steps a day depending on the day. Jesus. So there's a lot of expenditure.
Yeah. But you feel like you're getting enough in, and you feel like fit and good. And
I always try and get this across to people with a prep. You're never going to feel like, pretty much 2 weeks in, you're like, okay, I'm never going to feel 100%, or I'm not going to feel 100% till I'm out of the prep and I'm beyond that. But it's how you deal with that. You know, is it realistic to be in a calorie deficit, do all that training and be feeling on top of the world? No, but psychologically, you know, if you accept that and for what it's for and actually feel as good as you can throughout, then that's, you know, how I find the best way to approach it. And also with lifting, people say, oh, you know, you must not be lifting much now. And I'm like, what? And they're like, well, if you're not eating as much. And it's, when I go into a prep, one of my massive focus is lift what you go into the prep with, even try and get, you know, more load as the prep continues. And then it's only a couple of weeks out where actually you're like, I am a bag of shit. Like this is really fucking hard now. But why would I go into a prep thinking, oh, I'm not going to lift much now? Because it's that whole attitude of, you, like you say, you go into a session and you've already got in your mind, haven't you? I want to lift X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Same with a prep. You know, if I tell myself I'm not going to feel very good, I'm starving, I'm this, I'm that, and the other all the time, I'm going to be, aren't I?
Yeah. Exactly. You've got to try and speak it into existence to a level.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not tough sometimes, but it should be, shouldn't it? You know, if you want to compete, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you have to, you know, it's like for charity, you know, if I was going to, I would feel like I'd earned, if I was going to try and raise some money for charity, if I said, oh, I'm not going to wear, you know, I'm not going to wear shoes for 3 days, you know, or I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I would say that climbing the mountain would be more earned, you know, because it requires suffering. It means more to me because you have to suffer through it. And it was just, you know, with me losing weight or doing whatever I'm doing, you know, like last week when I did squats, my legs were completely fucking cooked. And I got in the car and I couldn't get out the car.
Yeah.
I couldn't bend my knees. Like my quads were completely fried and I just could not even bend my knees. And it wasn't that I'd overdone it. It's just, I was explaining this to Lana, when you haven't trained a muscle group or you haven't trained an exercise for a while, and then you do it with some vigor, you have to go through this like breakage period of like 5 days where you're just fucked for like 5 days and then you're good as gold.
Yeah.
So it was kind of expected, but, and I said to her, God, this program's hard because I'm doing kind of similar things to what I was doing before, but for longer with higher repetitions and higher weight. So it's not killing me, but I'm noticing a difference. But it's worth it. You have to feel some sort of pain. You know, it's like going through a breakup or something. You know, you might break up with someone who, you know, maybe wasn't the right person for you. And there were aspects of them that made you feel shit about yourself or something like that, for example. And you realize at the time you would break up and you're going to be hurting because what you're losing is what's familiar. But it doesn't mean that it's serving you anymore.
100%. That's really hard though, isn't it?
Yeah, fucking right.
Yeah, but like to actually go, do you know what? I'm not happy. Like, but then it's like, how do I get away from this situation if I'm not happy? If there's so many things, you know, around that, if you've got a house, if you've got this, you've got that, you know, or for you, you've got a child, like.
Oh yeah. That was a hard one. I mean, she pulled the trigger on that one. I mean, to be honest, I hadn't been happy for probably about a year. You know, there was certain characteristics. I'm not going to badmouth her because we're friends. You know, we're fine. Yeah. But there were certain things that she did that I didn't like, and certain things I did that she didn't like, and we were just sort of, you know, rubbing up against each other the wrong way. And because of being entrenched in we have a child, we have a house, we have this and that and the other, we have a life, we're comfortable to a degree. I was terrified, and I was also terrified to not have my kid there the whole time. You know.
Yeah.
So when she sort of initiated it and instigated the breakup, I was absolutely devastated. But in the long term, it's made me much happier and much stronger because the amount of shit that I've been through and I had to come back from, you know, has made me grow into the person that I am now, that I'm more proud of than any previous version of myself. So I'm not mad at that. You know, I'm not, it doesn't bother me. I think it's all part of the journey, you know, and you have to suffer in order to grow. And all the most interesting, intricate, wise people I've ever met in my life have had some serious shit go on. You know, they're the people that you want round for the barbecue. Do you know what I mean? You want to talk to people who've been through a lot, and that's what the podcast is all about. I want to talk to people who do things that other people don't do.
Yeah. And it's,
you know,
so
I want to learn,
like to just share. And I love listening to podcasts like this myself, where I'm like, oh, I can relate to certain things over a pod. And even if you get one little nugget, like a lot of podcasts people listen to when they're out walking or while they're cooking or whatever, it's like a nice thing to have on, and, you know, bits are relatable, some bits aren't. But even if you pick up little things, it's like, oh, we can just share journeys and share nuggets of information. It's a real cool thing to do.
Yeah, and I a lot of the nice feedback I've had is I mean, I haven't actually had any bad feedback, to be honest. I mean, one person said that I should sort of have specific topics that I talk about each week, but when I'm on my own, it's just kind of like my video diary. And I don't, you know, I've had people say that you need to change this, that, and the other, and not in a really negative way, but, you know, like putting their sort of 2 pence in. But to be honest, it's mine. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it, but it's mine, and I'll do what I want, you know. So that's that. But yeah, a lot of people have said to me that it's just like they feel like they're part of the conversation. Like they might be listening to it, and one of us will say something, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, like that," and then we'll say that, and then they're like, you know, and it's just like listening to somebody having a chat on the train. And that's kind of what I want. I want a familiar, comfortable environment, you know. And it doesn't always have to be, you know, full of interesting stuff. Sometimes it's just about, you know, having day-to-day observations and just having a bit of fun, you know. It can be there's no set menu for any of this. This is why it's quite loosey-goosey, and it's not for everyone, but really, you know, that's down to you, mate. If you don't like it, you know, turn it off.
Yeah, and that's what I'm the same with the podcast I do with Steph. Like, I'm just like, you know, we have like a guest, and we say, this is the guest, can you start, you know, by telling us a bit about you? And then it's like completely organic. Like, there might be a couple of things I want to touch on, like we have, but generally it's like, let's see where this goes, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's better that way. It is better. Like a lot of I'm quite good at winging it. When I used to work in the corporate job, I was like a kind of a rep for the staff, and we had these meetings every month, and I had to stand in front of a big room of people and basically present our slide and talk about it. And I never ever prepared. Half the time I hadn't even seen the slide before I did the fucking presentation. Yeah. I just sort of read it as I went and just sort of made it a bit kind of fun and you know, sort of took the piss out of it a little bit. And that's just kind of how I just wing it, you know. But I think it is more natural. And the problem is, the more time I have to worry about something, the more time I will overthink it and fuck it up, probably.
100%. And with podcasts as well, you know, like you said, with feedback and stuff, I always say when I finish mine, like, if anyone's got any topics, you know, if someone's listened to us today and they thought, I really want to hear more about that bit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've both said we're open to doing a session together again. So if anyone does listen and go, oh, that was really cool, I wonder if they could expand on it, let us know. And then we could do that, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the thing. At the moment, the podcast is still growing. I mean, you know, a lot of successful podcasts, they take years and years and years to blow up, and that's fine. Yeah. I'm not in a rush, but yes, that's something I would like to do. I always encourage people to comment and be in touch. And also, you know, reach out to me if they're struggling. Because I'm not a medical professional, but I have got, you know, 20 odd years of experience with severe mental health problems. So, you know, I'm always here to help people. And there's a select few people who check in with me regularly and sort of say, you know, I've not had the best couple of weeks, and I'm just there as a shoulder. But that's what it's all about. You know, I'm never too busy to help someone. If I'm not in the right frame of mind, I might say, you know, can we chat tomorrow or something, you know, but I wouldn't ever dispel somebody. I want people to feel like they can approach me, because I know what it's like in those dark waters when you feel like no one understands.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and I want to help people as best I can. I can't fix anyone, but you can at least help someone with a different perspective, you know,
and
or
it's
your
a nice
experience.
Thing. Yeah. It's so it's free, isn't it? It's free medicine, and it's nice to share journeys.
Yeah, and I just, like we were saying about winging it, I just want to learn. Like, I just want to get to know you. I just want to know everything about you, you know, because I'm people just fascinate me, you know, and especially people who are in an industry that I admire. You know, it's kind of like it's a bit of a fucking win-win. Like, why didn't we do this before?
I know, yeah. When Chris said, I was like, yeah, and he was like, oh well, I could speak to Tobias, like, see if he wants you to go on. And I was like, speak to him today, Chris. I want to get on the pod. Like, this is cool. And then he's like, you know, we might, you know, do several sessions, because if we've got things that people want to hear about, or if there's certain things that we could expand on, I'd definitely, you know, love to do that. So yeah, make sure if anyone's listening, hit us up.
Yeah. And I was going to say it would be good at some point as well to do a one in person, because what I like to do is, although I think it can be quite risky doing it over Zoom. Obviously, we got on like a house on fire pretty much straight away, so it's not an issue. But when you're doing it over Zoom, it's not as, I don't know about you, but like I feel like when you're actually sitting with each other and you're there together, it can be it kind of flows a little bit better, because you haven't got to worry about signal or, you know, silly little things like that.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I'm sort of in the process of sort of getting that doable, because I've got other microphones and stuff. I've got too many microphones, to be honest. But I've got the setup that I've got here. It would just be accommodating having where somebody else could be comfortably. But it's all a process, you know. In time, I want to get, you know, a soundproof room. I want to get nice chairs. I want to get more microphones, get a massive desk, get it all set up properly. You know, I want this to be, you know, eventually get some sort of sponsorship for the podcast and be able to profit from it would be a bonus. But I won't stop doing it. You know, I'm not going to stop. And I would love to do more sessions with you and do topic-based things. And, you know, because for me...
Really share it and see what, you know, on both of our Instagrams and whatever. See if anything comes in, because it will be, you know, really cool if, like we say, if someone's heard something and it triggered something in them, or equally, we might have just touched on something and someone wants us to really get into it. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, when you mentioned about social media earlier, we could do fucking 4 hours on social media. Like, it wouldn't be difficult.
And, you know, even things like food disorders, disordered eating, all of that sort of stuff. Like, you know, we could talk for hours about that and habits around that sort of stuff and coming away from disordered eating, because we've both had that in essence.
Yeah. Oh, God. I mean, even now, like I've got, because of how I was spoken to as a child by my dad, I've got very severe body dysmorphia. So I think that I basically think that I'm obese. Like the way that I see myself, I only see the negatives. I don't, if my shoulders have grown or my biceps have grown or my back's got wider or something like that, I kind of see it, but I don't acknowledge it as much as if I was to gain like half an inch around my stomach or something. Like, I can't separate that. I mean, you'll see today, I only pretty much wear black, you know, like, and you know, I don't know. It's, we should definitely talk about, we should maybe do an episode on body disorders and stuff. I did a great episode actually with a girl called Rachel, who was a family friend, and she's always struggled with her body and she had an eating disorder and things as well. And it was fascinating. And sometimes you think, I just don't have enough time to because every podcast that I, you know, do, if I really hit it off with someone, it's like I said to you in the build up, we're going to end up talking for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, because when you meet someone who's like-minded and who can relate to you, it's like you start a fire and you keep throwing on petrol to it, because it's just more and more things come up that you can both relate to, and it just becomes like never ending.
It's so nice to meet like-minded people though, because it's so easy. Like, you wouldn't want to do a podcast and be thinking, oh God, I need to go, like this person, you know. Well,
to be honest, I'm quite good at exiting quite quickly, so I would have done it already. It's that I've got to go. It's funny. I'm, you know, I was saying how I'm quite selfish with my time. I'm like it on nights out as well. I don't really go out drinking or anything anymore. Like, you know,
same.
once every couple of months maybe, but it's not a regular thing, you know. Yeah. And to be honest, it doesn't sit well with me. You know, the day after, I've got terrible insides and I feel sad all day. You know, so it's not a good thing for me really. It's not conducive to what I want to do. And also, it's wasted calories. A pint of beer is like 400 calories.
Don't even get me started on liquid calories, mate.
Mate, honestly, I'm trying. I was going to say the only liquid calories I have is a protein shake, really, but that's not really,
Yeah,
I can get away with that.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't really get into that much, but with drinking and stuff. But what I used to do is if I'd had enough, like if I felt anxious or I saw someone that I didn't like or something like that, I would just go. Like, it doesn't matter who I'm with. I'll just fuck off home. I don't care. Like, I'll just, and it became quite funny because obviously your close mates who care about you and love you and they know how you are,
yeah.
they understand. Like my best mate, Brad, like we were out this night and this guy just kept going on about this same thing with me and I told him to leave it and he just kept going on and on and on. And I said I was going for a wee and I just fucked off. And I text Brad and I said, I'm home, mate. Like, I'm not. Like, and he was like, I could tell you were going to go. I was just waiting. Like,
It's like,
it's only a matter of time. Yeah. I'm just gonna disappear. Oh, I think the connection's gone. But yeah, no, I'd definitely love to do more. So I've got a question for you. If you were, this is probably the worst time to ask you when you're in prep. If you were on death row,
yeah,
and it was time for your last meal, what would you have? And you could have anything.
So let's go for a 3-course meal. So I would have calamari.
Yeah.
To start with light mayonnaise because full fat mayonnaise is a waste because they basically taste the same. Then I was
mate, we're not talking prep calorie conscious Sarah here. We're talking you can have whatever the fuck you want, go ape shit, Sarah.
I would always have a tikka masala from my favorite Indian in Bognor because it's fucking banging, and I always have plain naan because you can just mop and it's nice. And then I would have a cheesecake to myself, like a cheesecake,
like a whole one.
Yeah, it's got to be white chocolate with digestives. We don't have fruit in the cheesecake.
No,
we don't have shit all in it. We have just a cheesecake with digestive biscuits.
So you're about to die, and that would do you. That would sort you out.
100%.
Imagine calamari before tikka masala.
Okay, I didn't think about that, but they're my favourite. I do love a good old burger as well, but tikka masala is the one with a naan bread. Mate,
if that's what you want, that's what you're having. Like, that's... Yeah. But then I think about the volume of that. Obviously, our makeup is quite different. I'm quite a different size to you. Yeah. And I think, like, that would probably be my starter.
Yeah.
Like your 3 courses.
The cheesecake is the one. That's the main event, really, isn't it?
Yeah. That's what would push. God. That's what would push it over the edge.
Yeah, cheesecake is life.
Yeah, I think I had. It was really odd, right? I had as part of my refeed, I've got these big pots of fat-free Greek yogurt, the 0% ones with the high protein. Yeah. Still quite high in sugar, though. Found this out. I didn't really look at because the sugar content is the only thing that I really monitor because I get very little sugar. Because sugar makes me gain and it makes me feel terrible. It makes me feel really, really awful. So these big pots, it's 500 grams. There's 4 grams of sugar per 100 grams. Yeah. That's a lot. And I eat a pot, of it, and it's supposed to be 0% no nonsense yogurt, and it's still got a lot of sugar. And I was like, that's a joke.
That's the thing, isn't it, with nutrition? The more you learn, like you wouldn't think there'd be carbs in yogurt. Like ordinarily, and if you see high protein yogurt, you'd think it's just protein, and people don't realize. And also there's like the 0%, 3%, 5%. It's so complex until you understand it.
Yeah. And it's taking the time to actually step back and look.
And also there's sugar in so many things, but it's obviously you've got the natural sugars or you've got the, more processed sugars. So it's working out what you're using those sugars for. Is it for energies? Is it quick release fast? This
is it. And so I kind of compromised on that one because I don't get sugar in my diet anywhere else. I don't have sugar in drinks. I don't have any sugary anything. I literally do not have sugar. Yeah, nothing. The only sugar I get is the sugar that naturally occurs in the foods that I eat. It's not.
And you can still be on quite a high sugar diet when you have high carbohydrates, but it's like it's more the processed sugars that you're trying to avoid for your health reasons.
Yeah. And I think my makeup, I actually don't track these days because again, that becomes quite obsessive. Yeah. But usually like my maintenance calories based on my BMR is something like 3,100.
Yeah.
But I probably taken about 2,700.
This thing is, it's so individual as well, isn't it?
Yeah, because that sounds like a lot to me, and because I'm trying to lose fat at the same time, I want to be in enough of a deficit that I can trim fat, but also not lose muscle, and it is doable. Like, this is what people get wrong. You think that you can't lose fat and build muscle at the same time. You can. You just have to do things in the right way, and you have to be careful with it.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, it's much more difficult to build muscle while you're dieting.
Yeah.
You can still make marginal gains, but again, it depends on what your diet is, what your training is, what your, you know, it might be that strongman training, if you're not overeating as such, but you'll be able to, you know, you're getting really good lifts, that you could be potentially gaining muscle but losing some of the body fat at the same time because you're really focusing your training. So, but again,
that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah,
that is. Yeah. That's kind of how I'm looking at it now. Like, I'm not. Because really, yeah, you know, if I wanted to hit a 250k deadlift in the next 6 months, it would be doable, but I'd probably have to eat like a fucking bison for a couple of months, because, you know, no matter what you say, mass equals strength. It does. You know, it's been proven that mass equals strength.
Yeah, and
it doesn't matter if it's all
fat
or
yeah.
So that's what I've thought about. So, but I mean, at the moment, it's just kind of like I'm getting a good amount of food in where I feel full. I'm getting a lot of protein in, and my lifts are increasing. So that's all I care about. Even if I just stick with the body fat that I've got now and get more muscle on, I'm happy with that. Like, I don't, you know, because you do have to be a big guy, and I'm big anyway. I just want to pack on like more muscle, really.
And it is, because I have this conversation with sort of bikini competitors and what have you. You have got to, if you do want to gain quality muscle, you know, you are going to need to put on fat as well. It's, you know, and it's having that, how far do you want to go into gaining muscle and how much fat are you happy putting on, to then, in order when you do strip back, if you're bodybuilding, you know, you see the bigger picture of when you're then stage lean again. Oh, I've put on some quality muscle. So yeah, it's very individual.
You have to look at that long term, like you were saying before. You've got to. It's not a short time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to invest your time and your commitment into things long term, because like I used to look at guys in the gym, you know, guys who were in their sort of 40s when I was training when I was 19, and I was like, he is in ridiculously good shape. And the truth of the matter is, he's been training for 30 years. He's been doing, he's made mistakes, and he's learnt from them, and he's learnt what works for him, and he's kept going, and, you know, and that's what's realistic. And you can tell, I mean, with me, I don't know about other people, but I can tell when people are on juice and when they're not. Like,
yeah, I can now. I didn't used to be able to, but yeah, you can pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And like, because there was a guy who came into my gym the other week, and the second he arrived, he was dripping in sweat. But like, I'm not talking about like, I mean, it looked like he'd just run the London Marathon, like he was soaked, like he'd been in a plunge pool. And he took his top off, and his whole body was stretch marks. But he was in excellent shape. There's nothing wrong with stretch marks, but you know, his shoulders were like basketballs. He wasn't a big guy, you know, he's probably about 5'7". He wasn't a big guy at all, but he was just enormous. And, you know, and there's certain things with like skin and like other things that you can pick up. And especially having done them myself, I know what it does to you. I had really bad stretch marks on my arms like that. It looked like cats had been scratching at me, you know. It was just everywhere. Like it was a big thing, but it's interesting. But I don't judge anyone for it. It's like you said earlier, you know, if you want to do it, I think sports would be very entertaining if they let everybody take everything. It's like doing like the 100 meter sprint in 3 seconds. Like, just
just go for it.
And I don't know if you saw like this that runner, that American runner, I can't remember what her name is, but she was barred from competing in the Olympics because she tested positive for marijuana.
Really?
Even though it's legal in like 13 states in America, and where she comes from, it's legal, I think. But she was tested.
Enhance her performance, is it?
No, it'll enhance her recovery. Probably it'll stop her soreness. But but yeah, I just. Yeah, it's just bad. I think it's a shame. It's a shame. I think, if you want to do it, knowing what the risks are, provided that you've got the right advice, and you've done your research and everything, and you feel confident. What's to, if you lived in a little cabin in the woods and you had this thing you wanted to do, you wouldn't worry about other people's opinion because they wouldn't be there.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I'm all about. You do you, find your why, and crack the fuck on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the same with a lot of things. A lot of things are, my friends say, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And I might not agree like I would do it, but like, if that's what you want to do. And again,
happy.
What you said earlier about the judgment aspect, and about oftentimes these people have an issue with their own self, and that's why they're projecting it onto you. Mm-hmm. That used to be me, because I was so angry and stuff like that. I would always look at other people and think, well, why can he have that and I can't? And I was always really bitter about other people succeeding whenever other people did well, or got with girls, or anything that I wanted or that I wasn't good at the time, or whatever. I was always really bitter, and like, I just couldn't hack it. And then I realized that like that's a real knock on my own character, because really you should be in support of other people and what they do and champion other people, even if you don't necessarily agree with it. If I met someone who had tattooed his face like a lizard, I might be like, yeah, well, it's not for me, but if you're happy, then crack on, mate. Like, whatever you want. And there are people that do that.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I'll still take you out with me. That'd be fine. But yeah, so we should definitely do another one. That's it. I was going to say. So the Greek yogurt I have, Biscoff, like the Biscoff spreads you can get and stuff.
I do.
Yeah, of course you do. So there's one with pieces of biscuit in it that you can get from Aldi. And what I did, right, on my refeed, I put a tablespoon of that in my Greek yogurt pot, and it was literally like cheesecake filling. It was fucking incredible. It was like the base. It was like you'd sort of put a cheesecake in a blender and then stuck it in a bowl with a. It was incredible. It was absolutely immense. I was going to say, so when you're prepping, obviously you're clean the whole time, yeah? You're not having any cheats or anything.
So I tend to not really have like you said, I have refeed days. So because I'm flexible dieting anyway, I can incorporate stuff I want. So I still have like protein bars and stuff. Because I like them, Again, I used to think, oh God, I can't have that type of thing, but actually I can, because it sits well for me and I enjoy it. So I do that. But my refeed is just carbohydrates that go up. So my carbs go up. I times my normal amount of carbs by 1.5. And on one day a week, I have some extra carbs. But other than that, it's those macros all the way through. And
with your competing and getting into this, if let's say anybody's listening who wants to get started, whether it be in bikini or in bodybuilding or whatever it might be, what would you say to them if they asked you how to sort of begin?
Get a coach.
Okay. Perfect. Good start.
I'm just like, I'm always like, well, I tend to have a conversation. Why do you want to do it? How long have you been training for? And then I say to them, if you haven't already looked for a coach, I can put you in the right direction of a coach, people that I would recommend, because I just think it's an extreme sport and you're just opening yourself up to all types of stuff.
That's good advice. I think it's good to be honest about it as well, because I think a lot of people, I mean, especially with me, with what I'm doing, it's like I don't really know anyone in the industry that well or anything like that. It's just, for me, it's just a case of just sort of doing what I feel is right and keeping it clean and doing the best I can, really.
Yeah.
But it's about, I'll make contacts and stuff as time goes on, and that's, the whole thing. I'm not sure if there was another question I had for you. Okay, yeah. So if you could only I kind of know the answer now though. So this is a bit shit. Like I was gonna say, like if you could be right, I'll change it. Okay, so if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only have one item, what would you have?
If I could only have what?
If you could only have one item, like one item that you own on a desert island, and not something that practical like my phone, so I could call SOS or something like that.
I can't say Fitbit either.
No. And track your
That
steps
would
around the
just be
island.
very gimpy.
Yeah.
A barbell.
That's, to be fair, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. You could get
Very
so
versatile piece of kit.
yeah, and you could get so jacked that you could probably swim home.
Living on coconuts, bananas, if we were on a desert island, maybe some bugs for some protein.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I still don't know if I could like dip my toe in that. I think, you know, when people say like, you know, they do cricket protein, don't they? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of insects, mate.
No, I don't mind them, but I'm not going to eat them. No, I don't. I don't know. No, I get my protein from other sources. To be fair, I only use protein shakes and stuff to kind of hit my daily goals. I don't. I try and get it all from food if I can.
Yeah, same.
It would be, you know, I could have 15 scoops of protein a day, but it would, you know, just give me a bad stomach and I'd be starving.
Yeah, 100%. I'm exactly the same.
But I actually have them before the gym. Like I when I wake up, I have I've got like rolled oats, you know, like almost oat flour, like finely ground oats from my protein. And I mix 100 grams of that with a scoop of protein. I have that an hour before the gym, and that sees me through for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. It's just convenient, isn't it?
It's so easy. Yeah, it's so easy. And I find sometimes, and you'll know this, obviously, when you eat the same shit every single day, mostly, eating just becomes boring. It's just fuel. It's purely just to get the nutrients from it. I'm not enjoying this. No one enjoys chicken and rice every day for a year. I literally ate chicken, rice and broccoli every day for a year, and I didn't enjoy one of them. You know?
I'm like a weirdo. I actually really like chicken, rice and broccoli, and everyone's like, no, you don't. I'm like, yes, I do. And I'm like this weird.
What?
And I think I'm probably the only bodybuilder that doesn't like pizza, doesn't like bread, doesn't like donuts.
Are you fucking joking?
No, and I don't like pastries. I don't like ice cream. I think that's it.
Mate, you are designed to be a bodybuilder.
But then, like, post-show, everyone's like, get on the donuts, get on the cakes. And I'm like, no, just give me a cheesecake.
Yeah, just a cheesecake and a spoon and you're all right. That's so funny. It definitely seems like you're definitely designed to do the sport that you're doing, you know, because that's the hardest thing for me. Like, that's why strongman's good, because you're like, you could have a refeed day each week if you want to. But then the thing is, I only have a refeed meal. I don't have a refeed day, because a refeed day, I'll easily have 15,000 calories. And
it's also behaviors, isn't it?
Yeah, you're thinking. I'm only thinking about that reward aspect from, you know, the shit eating. Yeah, definitely. So you've got your show coming up on the 12th of September.
Yeah, so 12th of September. Yep.
Cool. Okay, so where's that going to be?
It's at the Brighton Hilton Metropole, so it's local, the first local one I've ever done, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. And what's it for?
So I'm doing that one in order to try and qualify for the Arnold's in Spain.
Okay, amazing.
So that's like a little, you know, aspiration for me that I had that's grown, because I've actually got the opportunity to potentially qualify for it, because obviously Arnold being Arnold, he's like the face of bodybuilding, isn't he? So to go and compete at the Arnold's would be epic. Yeah,
he's a god. He really is a god. He's an inspiration to everyone, I think.
Yes, that's the goal. Become undeniable.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that, and I think you'll do it. I'm all for you, mate. I'm big supporter, and I will. Yeah, I'll come to your Brighton show for sure. That'd be good if you don't mind.
Yeah, there's loads of people coming, so that's another, like, it's just such a cool vibe, you know.
Yeah. Well, you'll smash it. You'll smash it. You didn't think you could do it before, and you're just being humble with it, and now and you're dominating every single time. So you just got to keep riding that wave, and keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. So obviously on Instagram,
yeah,
you are. Is it your surname? Do you say Hatchard or Hatchard?
Hatchard.
Okay, so I mispronounced that at the very start of the podcast. Sorry about that.
That's cool, mate.
So you're Sarah Parker Hatchard on Instagram, and also You've got your YouTube channel as well. So, I mean, all I did was literally just search your name into YouTube, and that's how I found you.
Yeah, that's what I normally say to people. Just type my name in.
Cool. Okay, so for anybody listening, obviously, if you want to find Sarah, if you want to follow her story and her journey and her path to continued greatness, then obviously get on Instagram. That's probably like the most engageable one. But obviously, follow on the YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and click the bell and do all the things, much like you should do on this channel. You know, and so that you can be notified and follow along with the journey. But obviously, Sarah, just again, thank you so much for joining me. You know, on the episode, and you know, this is the start of many more great conversations and videos and all sorts of things. It was definitely meant to happen. We're definitely meant to meet up.
Yeah, such good time.
Yeah. Very good timing. And obviously, you know, best of luck. I'm going to talk to you before September.
Yeah.
This is just for continuity. I was going to say best of luck, and it's like, I'm not going to not talk to you for months. Like, that just doesn't seem right. Anyway, see ya.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those of you who are listening, I hope you've enjoyed episode 20. A bit of a milestone. Obviously, things are really, really going well. So just going to keep putting out the content, keep putting out the episodes. And if you need anything, if you have any questions, any suggestions, any thoughts, any concerns, just reach out to me, reach out to Sarah, anything you need. Obviously, we're there. So just give us a shout. But this has been episode 20. So I will speak to you very, very soon. And look after yourselves. Love you. Bye.
Class Cage